各位好，欢迎收看今天的天天话题健康专栏，我是小诗。近期全美多地麻疹病例再度上升，而随着疫苗接种率在过去几年出现下滑，包括南卡罗来纳、亚利桑那、犹他在内的多个州份都陆续出现麻疹疫情反弹。而这种趋势如今也蔓延到了南加州，过去1周内呈现已确认2例病例，洛杉矶县新增3例。虽然目前感染者都与旅行有关，但潜在的公共暴露风险仍让卫生官员提高警惕。今天我们特别邀请到来自洛杉矶公共卫生部传染病防控部门主管 Dr. Sharon Botter 为大家解读最新情况。Hello, Dr. Botter. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Botter, so we're currently seeing a mix of new measles cases and a noticeable rise in flu cases as well here in LA County during the past few weeks. So a lot of families are wondering what's going on this season. So first of all, how would you describe the overall infectious disease situation right now, and should people be concerned?
Well, it is flu season. We always see a rise in influenza cases at this time of year, and that it's not different this year. Probably what's a little bit different is we are seeing more measles both in the United States and elsewhere in the world. And we have had 3 measles cases, all who acquired measles outside of the county. And with more and more measles in the world, we're probably going to see more of that. What we would recommend to families who are concerned for both diseases is to get vaccinated. For influenza, people sometimes say, is it too late to get vaccinated? And it's not too late to get vaccinated. We don't know when the influenza season will either peak or end. So it's still possible. It will take a couple of weeks for the vaccine to work. So in the meantime, it's a good idea to be washing your hands, just to be careful when you're around large crowds. And if you do think you have influenza, to call your doctor, especially if you are elderly, pregnant, or very, very young, or you have a problem with your immune system. That's because there are medications that you can take if you do get influenza. So it's always good to call your doctor if you're in one of those groups.
Got it.
For measles, it's the same. We want you to go get vaccinated.
Yeah, so let's dive more into the measles first. So the county, like you said, reported 3 confirmed cases just within the past week, I believe, which definitely caught people's attention. So can you walk us through what do we know so far? Like, are these cases connected, and where might exposures have happened?
These cases are not connected, and exposures happened while traveling abroad. As I mentioned, there's a lot of measles, both elsewhere in the world and right here in the United States. There's a major outbreak in South Carolina, in Arizona, in Utah. So what we really want to say to people is definitely get vaccinated. Everybody who's at least 1 year and above should get vaccinated. However, we want to remind people that if you're traveling abroad and you have an infant between the ages of 6 months and 1 year, it's very, very important to tell your doctor about this. Children can be vaccinated early. We usually don't vaccinate until the age of 1 year in the United States, but between 6 months and a year, the children are vulnerable because the antibodies from their mother have worn off at that point. So it's always important to bring that up. Everybody should have 2 doses of measles vaccine, at least 4 weeks apart. So if you're not sure if you've had that, it's good to talk to your doctor and potentially get another dose.
Okay, so vaccinations is really the key protection here. But are vaccination rates in LA County high enough to prevent an outbreak? And who should consider checking their MMR status right now? Because I know some parents are unsure whether they or their kids are fully covered.
Yes. Well, overall in Los Angeles, I would say that vaccination rates are enough to prevent an outbreak. What tends to happen, though, is there tends to be groups of people, communities who may develop an anxiety about vaccines. So in those specific pockets, there can be a risk. There are some adults who may have, adults my age actually, who may have only had 1 vaccine. This is around the time when I was in college that they realized that we needed 2 vaccines. So some people, especially if they were already in the workforce and not in college, might not have gotten that second vaccine.
Mhm.
For those people, it might be worth getting another dose. For parents, they can probably talk to their pediatrician and make sure. And as I say, anytime you're going to travel, it's very important to talk to your pediatrician, not just about measles, but any vaccine that you might need. Measles is very, very contagious. If you encounter somebody who has measles, you haven't been vaccinated, there's a 90% chance you will get measles. Even if you're not even in the room at the same time, if you just walk into a room shortly after somebody with measles has been there, because it can suspend in the air. But the other side of it is the one dose of vaccine is 93% effective and 2 doses is 97% effective. So we really want to encourage people to get the vaccine.
Got it. So like you mentioned, measles is extremely contagious and people can spread it even before they feel sick. So if someone thinks they might have been exposed but doesn't have symptoms yet, what shall they do next?
Well, then it's good to call your provider and ask, did I have 2 doses of measles vaccine? In which case, you probably don't need to worry. If you haven't, and again, especially if the person we're worried about is an infant or a pregnant woman, in those cases, if it's soon enough, if it's within the first 72 hours, sometimes there is something they can give to try to prevent the infection. But really the best thing to do is prevention, to have gotten the vaccine in advance.
Yeah, it's never too late to get the most updated vaccine.
Right, and there really is not a treatment for measles. We do what's called supportive care. If people get very sick, and some people do end up requiring hospitalization and in rare cases even die, what we can provide in the hospital is just kind of taking care of them and trying to help them get through it, fluids, et cetera, if they can't eat, that kind of thing.
不过，值得注意的是，当前需要警惕的传染病并不只有麻疹，在全美范围内，流感活动近期也出现回升的迹象。尤其是由乙型流感病毒引发的感染正在小幅增加，部分地区甚至出现第二波反弹。那么，今年的这一波流感季是否会持续升温？我们又该如何做好防护？我们继续连线洛杉矶卫生官员 Dr. Sharon Botter。So, how serious is this flu season shaping up to be compared with previous years? Like, what is the current trajectory of the flu activity, and what indicators the department is most closely monitoring right now?
Well, flu is high but relatively stable right now. So we look at a couple of things. One thing is we'll look at the percentage of respiratory specimens that were tested for flu and what percentage is positive. So this week it was 16.3%, or the week ending February 6th. That was down from 17.1% the previous week. Yes. On the other hand, the number of people who visited the emergency room for flu-like illness was 8.3% during the same week, which was up from 7.7%. And our hospitalizations rose to 271 from 273. So not a huge rise, but definitely it is flu season, it is serious, and we do have people who are in the hospital.
Right. A lot of people think it's February right now. Why it sounds like the flu isn't done yet? Infections are rebounding. That's why some people feel like the flu is hitting harder this year. So, speaking of how severe the current season is the department seeing anything different about the influenza strains compared with past seasons?
There has been some talk about the fact that there has been a slight change, a discussion of subclade K. I think it's too early to say what impact that's going to have. There is some data from the UK that suggests that the vaccine is still effective in terms of preventing hospitalizations, which is really what's important here. But I think it's too early to say what impact that will have. Flu can definitely occur at this time of year and even later. It varies a lot from year to year.
And for people who haven't got vaccinated yet, they might be wondering if it's already too late, but based on what you said, it's never too late.
Yes, it's not too late. It will take a couple of weeks to provide protection. So if you get vaccinated today and you're exposed tomorrow, it may be too late in that case, but after a couple of weeks, you will be protected.
How effective is this year's vaccine?
We don't know yet. That's a hard thing to say in the middle because, as you know, the vaccine is reformulated every year.
Yes.
And that's because flu changes a little bit every year. There's little mutations,
Right.
and it's really only after flu season that we know for sure. But as I mentioned, there is some early data from the UK suggesting that it's protective against hospitalization, and so that's important to know.
Got it. So finally, for families watching at home tonight, it can feel overwhelming with both measles and flu circulating. So if you could leave them with some advice to stay healthy, what would those be?
Well, so there's general advice we give to everyone, which is always stay home when you're sick, wash your hands, and then if you're worried, call your provider. Ask your provider, do I have the vaccines that I should? And if not, can I come in and get them?
Got it. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Botter, for your thoughts, and we appreciate your time today.
And thank you for sharing the message.
Thank you. 从麻疹到流感，两种高度传染的呼吸道疾病都在提醒我们，预防永远比治疗更重要。及时接种疫苗，出现症状主动居家休息，在人群密集的场所做好个人防护，这些看似简单的步骤，其实就是守护自己和家人健康最有效的方式。希望今天的分享能够帮助大家更清楚地了解风险，也更从容地做好应对。感谢您的收看，我们下期再见。